Hey, what's going on? This is the Go Long Podcast. Here with Jim Monis virtually this week. We aren't at Hamburg Brewing Company, but I do have a little bit lager now in my left hand here. 6.0 lager with Citra. A fine beer to have in Western New York this time of year. Jim, you're down in Charleston.
Down in Charleston right now, just getting away a little bit, trying to, get my mind right for the Louis Locks. Make sure we keep rolling the Louis Locks. I mean, we got to keep winning. You know what? I miss being at the brewery though. Our vibe, we've been doing really well there. We have a good vibe there. Our picks are good. So we'll have to get back there hopefully next week.
Definitely grab a little beef on wick, throw back a Hoptimonium, a Louis, maybe a grounded. I couldn't believe that when you texted me this week that our Louis Locks are, I guess we'll get to it on the next ep here that's on people's phones, but what's our record in the Louis Locks?
I think I got to look at it again. I think it's 9. I have it. 8-3-1. I think it's 8-3-1 the last couple. Yeah.
Which is really good against the spread. You told me. It's
really good. It's really good. So we should be happy with that. So yeah.
Well, we have a really awesome guest. We just did the interview with Joshua Harris. He's Lamar Jackson's private quarterbacks coach. Just unbelievably nice guy. He's a high school English teacher. Yeah. He's a father of 4. The man does it all, and he's been coaching Lamar Jackson since his teenage years down there in South Florida. So he really offered a perspective.
That was my favorite part of the whole interview.
Yeah.
The youth football. When he was talking about how Lamar's always juking people because that's how everybody plays down in Miami in youth football. I love that.
It's a different world, man. When you've got people, grown adults, betting on 6 and 7-year-olds thousands of dollars. You don't get that in Western New York. We didn't have that at our midget football games back in the day.
We'll see if we can maybe get it. Maybe we'll get that going. Maybe that's next on the list. If I stick around Western New York long enough, we'll see.
Well, that's an untapped market with gambling legal. Maybe we should just start, let's legitimize it. Get down there. We got the local Boston Patriots, 3rd and 4th graders here. Let's start it up. Why not? Make a little money. I don't even know where you want to go, Jim, but holy cow. We'll definitely talk some Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. I cannot wait for that game this week. The Bills obviously crushed Kansas City. Got into all of that with Isaiah McKenzie on the Isaiah McKenzie show here at Go Long. He was remarkable. Just kind of shedding the light on that. Anything else? That jumps out to you, Jim, that you want to dive into?
Well, when you look at the quarterback rankings come out tomorrow at the Go Long that nobody cares about really, but we like to talk about them. But the cream is rising right now to the top. It's really special to see these guys. The quarterback play in the league right now is so fun to watch. You're seeing Russell Wilson before he got hurt last Thursday was playing phenomenal. Lamar Jackson, we know what he did. Josh Allen, I don't know if I've scored a game better than Josh Allen, what he did the other night against KC. So Aaron Rodgers, what he and Devontae Adams are doing right now is, I don't know if the NFL's ever seen a connection like this. It's the Rodgers ball placement every time that Adams and his ability to adjust and make those behind the back shoulder catches is just, it's so fun to watch. So,
and if people want more on Rodgers and Adams, the subscribers can get the podcast with Bob McGinn. He had the historical perspective on Devontae Adams's season so far. It's unbelievable. Like what he's doing through 5 games. It has never been done in team history, really NFL history. Just dominant, absolutely dominant. But I'm looking at your rankings, and for those who don't know, plus minus grading.
Yep.
You might get 2 if it's really, really good. You might get minus 2 if it's really, really bad.
To hold on to. The 1 is, hey, that was really good. 2 is, you don't see that often. You're not going to get a lot of those in a game. Aaron Rodgers racks up 2s a lot. That's what really is so incredible about him. But and that's what, like Lamar Jackson the other night. His first half wasn't very good. He was missing some players. He did lose a fumble. So those are minus points. And then the second half was like nothing we've ever watched. So put him, he still scored really well and all that. But it's really fun to see like for on these rankings right now, the one quarterback that hasn't jumped out at me this year that everybody keeps talking about is Matt Stafford, where I think he has a room for improvement. He can play better than he's playing. He's missing a lot of guys. He's making the plays are there. The guys are open and he's missing them. Now he's also making some throws too, but that those misses go against him. And that's a guy I'm just watching right now to see, is he going to take that step to get into that elite category? That you see those top 10 guys right now, they're all playing at a high level.
That is absolutely what jumps out to me more than anything, Jim, is you have Justin Fields, 17.
Well,
Matthew Stafford, 18. Where I think, naked eye, we're watching games here and there. We're looking at stats. You would assume Stafford is way superior. Explain what you're really looking at.
So the issue is Fields, they're hiding Fields a little bit where he's not throwing. He's not having a lot of throws. And he just threw for 111 yards and won a game. And he didn't do anything. He didn't play very well. And they just beat Vegas. So basically, he doesn't have he's not hurting himself, but he's not making a ton of great throws. You know what I'm saying? So Fields hasn't let that shake out because he has only played like 3 games. So his sample size isn't really, good enough yet. That'll shake itself out. But for Stafford, he throws so much that, he's acquiring so many attempts and not, always and missing guys. That's why his rating's a little low right now.
I'm saying, the narrative, what's pushed in every media channel is that Matthew Stafford is rejuvenated with the Los Angeles Rams. Look out, they're taking over the NFL.
He looks like he does at Georgia. The same issue at Georgia coming out was his accuracy, where yes, all the arm talent, all that's easy to see, but he does miss guys, and he's doing it again. He did it in Detroit too. I mean, it's just what he has that one little part of his game that he's not always the most accurate quarterback. It's not about, he can make every throw. We all know that. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah. Man. Well, I can't wait for this weekend. Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, talk about 2 supremely gifted quarterbacks and 2 totally different ways. Who would you take out of those 2?
No, I right now I'd still have to go Lamar. It's just too crazy. It's too special.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's not an easy decision because Herbert, he's almost like Lamar a little bit where he's better in the clutch right now. Like the Chargers aren't starting off games great necessarily, all the time with Herbert. So, but he's so good. I mean, you're talking about franchise guys. I mean, and I love everything the Chargers are doing we keep talking about that coach. The more he talks, the more I want to listen to him.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoy hearing even the stuff he talked about with Gruden, I thought was well said, to the point, made a strong statement in what he said, but not like, didn't sell Gruden out, didn't really, he did it in a way that he just felt sorry for, felt bad for a lot of people. And it's just that he just knows how to be a leader. He really does.
He does. I mean, he puts everything perfectly. He threads the perfect needle and articulates exactly what he wants to say in a digestible way. And it's digestible in, social media and Twitter, where everybody is, schizophrenic and their attention span lasts 1.2 seconds. I mean, to be able to explain something in a profound way, it's not easy to do. And he does it. He pulls out, whether he's talking about running the football, Lamar Jackson, Jon Gruden, it doesn't matter what the topic is.
No, I can't picture him being like Vic Fangio and complaining about a team, running the score up or running the ball at the end of the game for yards, and Jim Schwartz chasing after Harbaugh. I can't picture Staley doing it. He just seems very business I get it. There's so much mental that goes into the game that we're starting to see a lot of these coaches. I feel like we're seeing changing in these head coaches on their mentality. It's not all about the rah tough, how we think of guys sometimes.
Yeah, right? But see, that's where I'll push back a little because Dan Campbell, those tears, man, I felt for him.
Hey, great. I'm not saying he doesn't love football. He can love football, but I mean, that's a hard loss. That's okay. I don't care if you cry after a loss, but are you doing the right thing? I don't know enough about Campbell if he's preparing his team.
It seems like this is a team that doesn't have much talent, like that is staying in games they have no business staying in, and they're losing. They're losing in like a tough
that's
fashion.
part of the So he is probably very intelligent. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying it's, I don't necessarily know if he's the tough guy coach or not, but
yeah. Oh, man, it's such a balance because there are coaches who try to project this hard ass mentality and Gruden. So let's go there. I mean, he's come up a handful of times on the podcast. You didn't have a ton of interactions with him other than seeing him at that Hooters, right?
I saw him at the Hooters when I was starting out, and then he did come and meet with us in New Orleans after he got fired. He did spend in a pre-draft meeting and went through the players he watched, and he loves football, and I don't know him at all. I said he never seemed like my type of guy that I'd want to be around. That's just not my style. But Staley really said it better. The Chargers coach said it best. I mean, you just feel for everybody. You just feel for everybody that he spoke about, whether it's the women, his homophobic stuff, racial stuff. It's just how could he? I don't know. How could he do that? How do you put those emails out there? And yeah, I know that everybody's saying, hey, why is he the fall guy? I mean, there's going to be a lot more that comes from this story. And I think we're going to see a lot. I'm excited. Well, I don't know if excited is the word. I hope we can find some stuff that's going into the hiring processes of these coaches on some of these emails. And why aren't, are the best guys getting hired? Are the most qualified guys being hired for the coaching job? So I'm interested to see if there's anything there with that.
I don't know how much we should hold our breath, though. I mean, the NFL is this multi-billion-dollar corporation that knows how to manipulate, control, filter information at a level that we can't even comprehend. I mean, this was so calculated. Talk about the ultimate head fake, whatever you want to call it, misdirection to make Jon Gruden, look, obviously what is in those emails is abhorrent. I mean, it's awful. It's not even arguable. But for that to be who did you piss off, Jon Gruden? For you to be that person when there is clearly way more stuff out there in these hundreds of thousands of emails. This is calculated. This is very calculated. I mean, the NFL knows what they're doing. I guess my first thought on Jon Gruden was, we talked about it on this podcast, but Lynn Bowden's story.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Gruden. There was a lot of Mike Mayock there too, but he really felt like the Raiders as an organization kind of wrote him off as a thug when his hometown in Youngstown, Ohio was raided, a drug raid, FBI, all this, it was a big deal. It's in the news. You can look it up, but they just found all of his guns. And the interim head coach right now, Rich Bisaccia, am I mispronouncing it?
Yeah.
So that is who was talking to Lynn Bowden. And the coaches in the room around Bisaccia, they didn't know that Lynn Bowden was listening to everything, that it was on speakerphone. Like he could hear this all, and they were writing him off basically after this happened. This is before they even reported for training camp. So he felt like Jon Gruden, Mike Mayock, the Raiders never even gave him a shot. That they wrote him off as somebody with a bunch of guns that had their home raided. And so, yeah, they let him go after camp. It didn't work out at running back. That was definitely a factor. And now he's on injured reserve for the Dolphins. And so it's too bad. He can't really see what he can do there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else is out there, but there's something. Do you think it's a coincidence that Sean Taylor is having his numbers being retired this weekend? They just announced that.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Well, it's
no, it's ugly. That's ugly. Yeah.
The other thought too, Jim, I think the NFL, they're okay. It seems like they're taking a lot of bullets here, right? It seems like, there's so many columns being written and so many takes being shot into the atmosphere. I mean, it seems like the league is under assault right now, and that people are writing, what Jon Gruden had in those emails. That's the NFL. That's what this league is about. I feel like the NFL, they probably knew that would be the reaction, And I don't think that they're that upset that we're not seeing what else is in those emails. I don't think that they're that upset that we're not talking about things like the forgotten 400 in our Don Mikowski story. Let's talk about these retired players that have their disability cut back. There's a lot of other issues.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about when we're talking about this other stuff. It's very similar to politics, both sides of the aisle. Messaging. What message is being pushed? When is it being pushed? And what aren't we talking about in that moment? We're not talking about so much right now. I just hung out with Don Mikowski here. His body's been beat the hell, 23 surgeries. He's held together with screws and titanium plates, and he battled depression. And he says, hey, look, there's guys way worse than me right now. And in the new CBA, the benefits that they had getting disability from the league and Social Security is being rolled back. That's just one example. So it's like, we're not talking about when concussions like that wasn't. I feel like concussions were in the headlines constantly 5-6 years ago, and then whether it's social justice, which the NFL's now magically behind, right? Like they kind of viewed that as an opportunity to get behind this stuff. All of a sudden, I just feel like we haven't talked about this huge issue, and I don't think it's an accident.
The concussion thing, that is just incredible how that just. It's still, we know it's still a major thing.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, I don't know if you saw his hit against, how is he playing this week? I don't understand how it's just like snap the finger. He passed concussion protocol. He's good to go. What is, I don't even know enough about it. I don't know. Maybe it's fine, but it just seemed, that was scary. Like to see him wobbling like that. But now he's ready to play this week. He's going to play.
I'll take it one step further. They're telling us it wasn't a concussion. He told us it wasn't a concussion. Davante Adams. We all saw that hit he took in that San Francisco. It looked like he was freaking murdered on a football field. That was brutal. And then he comes back on the game-winning drive to have those two catches. If that's not Davante Adams, are they back on that field? I don't know. Don't want to be conspiracy theorists, but
no, it's a good point.
I got a kick out of Chris Collinsworth though. Like he's been kind of under fire here in Buffalo, but during that game, like after Davante Adams is, basically decapitated on a football field, they show him on the bench. I think Chris Collinsworth said something like, looks like he's good. He's good.
He did say it like that. He did.
Yeah. Yep. He's fine, Chris. Everything's good.
Everything looked normal. Yeah. He looks great.
And then the Bills-Chiefs game. I hate to pile on anybody. The Bills-Chiefs game. God, Bills fans they're irate over Chris Collinsworth right now. But the backlash is a little extreme. But there was that moment when I think a Chiefs player, maybe it was Bolton, kind of rolled up Josh Allen's ankle in a pile.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty deliberate. Yeah. And he said, hey, if you want to run your quarterback, that stuff's gonna happen in there, Yeah. He was one that I actually kind of liked for a while too. Is there a broadcaster you like and one you don't like?
No, I don't mind. I don't mind Collinsworth, but he does seem different than he used to be. I don't feel like he's as dialed in as he used to be, and I don't know. I'm not noticing that. I'm not hearing anything that. I want to hear something maybe I didn't see, or give me some type of I think Riddick does I do think Louis Riddick does a good job on Monday Night Football. I do think he's good. I root for him because the whole scouting background, and I think he gives some good. I think he does give some good stuff, those guys. But no, I can't sit there and say there's an announcer I really want to hear. That's why I like the Red Zone.
Yeah. Man, I'm still learning this Red Zone channel. It's a little too manic for me. I
can't get enough. But is there somebody you like? I can't really off the top of my head. There's not somebody I'm like dying to hear.
Riddick's very good. You'll always learn something.
Job.
I like Tony Romo at first. I think though
he seems different to me now.
He's a legacy quarterback, right? Yeah. And you watch that Packers-Steelers game, and Ben Roethlisberger, it was a rough game for him. Now look, they won. I'm probably a little more pro Ben, pro Steelers. I still think that this is a team that could contend to a degree, but that game it was pretty ugly. and he did not want to criticize Ben Roethlisberger. At least it sure didn't seem like it. Quarterbacks kind of looking for quarterback. So I don't know some of that with him, but he does show you a side of the game you're not going to get. So he's pretty good.
He is. He knows it.
But you know who I love more than anybody, and it's like with announcers and broadcasters, I'm not looking for somebody to like be A+, inject my brain with knowledge, like play to play. More so if I'm going to hear you calling a game, it'd be good to be entertained, have a little fun. Gus Johnson, baby. Give me Gus.
He's good.
Give me Gus all day. Like he is hilarious.
His energy, yeah, he's good. He does a great job. Joel Klatt, his partner, they do a good job on that. They're good.
He just and he's not afraid to have fun. Like probably what makes me more mad than anything. Guys are terrified to say anything. They're terrified of Twitter. They play to play. They're scared of how things will be perceived, tweet to tweet, play to play, than actually telling us what's on their mind. I don't want insipid, bland, blah broadcast. And that's kind of what most are pretty much just blah. Nobody's really great. Nobody's really bad. It's just bleh.
That's what I mean. The only guys I listen to are Collinsworth and the Monday night crew or the Thursday night game with Troy Aikman. Right. Like other than that, I watch the Red Zone, so I don't have to hear any of that.
That's a good way to operate, man.
I like it.
Well, let's get right into our interview. Unless there's something else you want to hit on, Jim.
No, I think we hit it. That was good. I'm excited to see how the Bills play. This is going to be, and we'll talk about this in Louis Locks because I have something in that game. But this is when you really, again, show yourself as a great team, is having a big win like that against Kansas City, but follow it up. Follow it up with a team that you're much better than. They're better than Tennessee. Tennessee is not playing very well this year. They're struggling. Everything's hard for Tennessee right now. I'm not saying they're not. They do have some good players, but they are not playing well. Their defense is not stopping anybody. And I don't know how you stop this Buffalo offense. So this is a game I think Buffalo should win. I really do. But it's tough. You just beat KC. Now you got to go back on the road. That's always tricky. That can be a little tricky. But the great teams find ways to do this. Yeah,
let's hit on that before we get to this interview. Buffalo just smashed them. I mean, I didn't see that coming. You and Matt Miller did a lot more than me. There was still that part in my brain that's like, all right, Patrick Mahomes is going to turn it on. Maybe if that flag isn't called, deep in Buffalo's territory, they get the ball back down 11, I think. Maybe that's the moment things kind of get rolling. But other than that, it was Josh Allen. It was the Bills. If you haven't, check out the Isaiah McKenzie show. It's at golongtd.com, Apple, Spotify. He got into all this, Josh Allen's progression, what it was like behind the scenes. I thought it was interesting. He kind of admitted that this was more than just another game. It wasn't what's spewed at microphones as 1 of 17. No, this meant something more, to your point.
And I love how they handled themselves. At once they knew it was over. It was happiness, but it wasn't like they won the Super Bowl. There's more to come. This team's locked in right now. This team is locked in.
Any concern? I mean, not to be a negative Nancy here.
No.
Any concern though? 17-game season. I mean, they're just dominating in every way. It's mid-October. There's a lot left. It's a marathon. How do you sustain this?
It's hard.
How do you play this well? That's
why it goes, that week-to-week league thing is so real. That's why it's how do you sustain it the whole season, health-wise too, because the Bills are pretty healthy. So I think they're getting Milano back this week. Is he playing this week?
I think so. They do catch. I mean, the Titans are getting a little healthier. I get it. They haven't looked that sharp.
I'm not saying they're a bad team. I'm just saying what they haven't. Their defense isn't good.
No.
Now, the whole connection. Julio's coming back, I think.
AJ Brown is back.
Brown drops one or two. I'm telling you, he drops the ball a lot.
Yeah, he does.
He drops the ball too much for me. And everything is off Henry. And I just feel like the Bills find ways to stop a guy like Henry and make Tannehill beat you. And I still don't think Tennessee's defense is going to slow down Buffalo. I mean, so yeah, I just don't see it. I just haven't seen much from Tennessee that gets me that excited.
It's hard to bet against Buffalo. I don't care who they play.
Right now it is.
I did last week. I'm not doing it again. They're a runaway freight
But
train.
it's still the NFL, and it's still if they get rolling, Henry gets rolling, and you never know when a turnover somehow. It just that's the like you said, that call went the Bills' way. The Josh Allen late hit. That was a good that's the stuff that happens sometimes.
It gets lost by Wednesday, but the officiating has been atrocious this year. I mean, this is all time.
Football's hard to watch. Yeah, football's hard to watch.
It's some of these primetime games. The officials want to make it about themselves. They really do.
And the rules are set. The way the rules are written now, it's like, yeah, they almost do have to throw a flag because this is how the rules are written. Like they had to throw a flag on Frank Clark for that because he dug the shoulder in.
I mean, did they?
Well, the shoulder. But he's a guy they're watching anyway, right? That's a guy that is. That's a guy that they're paying special attention to. Frank Clark has.
Man.
So
how do you not find a middle ground as an NFL though?
It's brutal. It's brutal. I hate it.
I feel like there was a middle ground there, early 2000s maybe, but in the early 90s, 94, that we have it linked on that Mikowski story. I mean, when Terry Wooden picks up Don Mikowski, pile drives his head into the Kingdom, and he wasn't even flagged. We can all agree that's not what we need to see in football today. And then we can all agree that Frank Clark, that was flagged, like that. No, there's a place to live.
Like, how can there not? Yeah, how do they have to throw? Why do they have to throw that flag? They could tell it was not. It was not. It just wasn't.
Man. All right, let's do it. Joshua Harris, Lamar Jackson's private quarterbacks coach. I think everybody's going to learn a side of Lamar Jackson and football in South Florida. It's a little intense down there that they haven't heard or read before. So without further ado, here we go. All right, we're welcomed now by the great Joshua Harris, handling, one of the million things on his to-do list for the day, I'm sure. But it's an honor. It's a pleasure. Hopefully our readers and listeners, hopefully this name rings a bell because we've had you on our happy hour talking about Lamar Jackson and quarterback play today. We talked for some stories that go along. For those who don't know, this is Lamar Jackson's private quarterbacks coach since back to high school. So I'll let him kind of introduce that relationship, how it grew, but it's great to see you, Joshua. Thanks so much for making time.
It's a pleasure. And I like coming on these because when the great Joshua Harris, I don't hear that much. So thank you.
Well, there's a lot of quarterback gurus out there, and a lot of them, they make sure that they're out there, they're out there. They're on ESPN, NFL Network. They're very good at that game. But let me
ask Josh the true question to ask Josh.
Oh boy.
To be a quarterback guru, do you have a broom? Do you have a broom that you wave during drills?
I do.
That's all I need to know. Then you're legit. You're good. We're good to go. There's only so much you can do. You have to have one.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, everybody does something different. I mean, Otis Leverett, chatted to him for this story on Jameis Winston. I mean, he's knocking Jameis around. Like they're roughing him up. Everybody has their own way of doing it.
Well, here goes the first story. You brought up the broom. Lamar hates the broom because it's a broom, it's a weapon. Now everybody, or you can look at it as a tool, but I use it as a weapon. So
right,
I've seen other guys use the broom and it doesn't get close. No, so I use the broom to get out my frustration and aggression. So he hates it, and every time I bring it, he's like, because what I do is, so it's three things. I kind of go, and it's for pocket awareness, right? So up by the head, midsection, and the feet. Okay. But like when he frustrates me, I'm like, okay, it's broom drill. He's like, oh, and I swing it. So it'll go right by his face. He's like, oof. He'd be like, coach, you got close. And I actually hit him in the face one time with the broom. And I'm not going to say if it was an accident or not, but he did frustrate me that day. So yes, we used the broom. Yeah, he hates it, but that's why he's quick like that now.
I mean, I just rewatched the last fourth quarter overtime of that epic, against the Colts. It's almost like you were in the backfield with him, swinging that broom around. I mean, his pocket awareness was unbelievable. That's why you do it, right? It serves a purpose.
That is, yeah. It looks silly, but it is. There's a purpose behind it. Yeah.
Man. So yeah, just fill us in real quick on how you guys met, how you became close, and how closely you work with Lamar to this day, week to week.
Yeah, so I'd be remiss. I have to start off with a gentleman by the name of Van Warren, who was his youth quarterback coach. Came to him when he was 8 years old, and Van in Pompano Beach, Florida. And Van said, "Hey," he said, I'm a quarterback." So the neighborhood was kind of talking about him. They brought him to Van, and he said, "If you could throw the ball 20 yards at 8 years old, I'll train you." So they went out there. It went past 20 yards. So Van said, "Okay, I'll train you." So Van Warren trained Lamar from 8 years old every Sunday. And then Lamar's mother joined in to help. She was like the boot camp disciplinarian. She did all the exercise, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the running around and all that stuff. So every Sunday from 8 years old throughout high school, you could find Lamar on a Sunday afternoon for about 3 hours training with Van Warren and his mother. And other kids could come out and do this. So anyway, I was a local high school head coach at a small private school in Pompano. And I went out there because I heard about the trainings and all of these things. And I had a son who played quarterback, and I kind of wanted to get a different voice in his ear. And so I met Van and Lamar's mother, Felicia Jones. And from there, I went out kind of for my son, but then I started helping coach because I knew the position and knew it. And then so in Lamar's sophomore year of college, they both kind of say, "Hey, coach, man, we think you know something. We think you could start taking Lamar to another level." And so that's when I started training him personally.
And he reached another level. I mean, Brandon Staley, put it so well. Obviously they're playing the Ravens this week. I can't get enough of his press conferences. He's just such an excellent communicator of a head coach. But I mean, he said there's never been a Lamar Jackson. Like, we've never seen this before. I imagine you would agree. I mean, Mike Vick did some special things, but man, maybe how are they different? How is Lamar one-on-one?
The game is different. The way that the game is different, and the game suits, like, Lamar can, like, Vic would survive in this. He could play this system too, I think. Yeah. But that's the only comparison you can make. I mean, there is nobody else. It's either Vic or nobody. And it might be nobody. Now, I don't know who's throwing the ball. Like,
I'm gonna tell you a guy me and Van used to always say to Lamar, and maybe it's just of our age, but we were like Randall Cunningham. I mean, Randall had the long wind up, but he could throw the ball, especially later in his career. You know what I mean?
Randall wasn't as elusive as he was a long strider. He was a long strider, like but he was. I mean, he was he was a unique player too. You're right. He could throw I mean, I don't know how far he could throw the ball. That would be
right. But to that. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, but Lamar 37 of 43. I don't know how many of those games Vic's putting together. Even Cunningham is having.
But like, it is a different game with the just because now the short pass is the run game. You know what I mean?
So, a lot of those completions are
exactly. So it is different, but I love the fact, and again, I guess this is just me being, champion for my guy. I'm glad we're getting out of the next so-and-so, and we can just look at Lamar as being the first Lamar. You know what I mean? Because again, of course it's an accomplishment to hear, like, hey, you're like so-and-so, but you want to be recognized as being one of one. And I think that's starting to happen with Lamar with the consistency. And I'm really happy to hear that because, man, he's a special guy on the field and off the field. So
everything.
25-9, right? He can't come back. You get Lamar down in the fourth quarter, he's done because he's just a running back playing quarter. I mean, we have a group chat with our friends, and I swear it's every other day we're just going at it about Lamar Jackson. Like, they in their heads, they're convinced that he's not a quarterback, that he can't succeed in that moment. So I could not wait to fire away in that group chat after that game. But I mean, they kind of symbolize a lot of people in this country who still don't believe, but you always have. We talked last year about it, Joshua. Like, so when they're down 25-9, What's going through your head? How are you taking this game in? Why is Lamar Jackson able to pull off what he just did against the Colts?
Yeah, I'm never panicked. I'm like, yeah, here we go again. You know what I mean? Like, I believe he's coming back. You know what I mean? Even the next day I text him, I said, okay, so we just gonna make every game interesting this year, huh? You know, with the laughing emoji, we laughed about it, you know, but it's like when it's 25-9 and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be one of those magical shows. Like, that's really how I look at it now, because it goes back to, I know the guy. And I've said this before, and obviously I'm a fan of other people. So you read the cliche about, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going or whatever. But he really is a person, and I've said this before over the years. I literally, when wanted to see his best performance, I would say something negative about him. And it would be just like that. He'd throw me a perfect pass. There's something about him. He locks in and gets focused when there's adversity or when he's maybe doubted. So even like on that fumble on the 2-yard line or 1-yard line, it's crazy. It may sound crazy to you, but I'm almost like, yes, because I know what he's going to do. He is, because it's like, and I talk this all the time, like loyalty. He feels like he's letting his teammates down. And so when there's little moments like that in the game, and I think if y'all start to think about these games he's had, there's probably been a moment in the first half or something where you've been like, dang, Lamar, why did you do that? You know what I mean? He takes that and it's like, I can't let my teammates down. And he just goes to another place that a lot of people can't go.
Well, Joshua, you must not gamble on games, because you wouldn't have been happy that he fumbled on the 2-yard line like I was. I bet on Baltimore. I was a little upset at that point. I'm just kidding. But you're right. Nothing phases him. Like, you can tell he's going to fight through that's what makes him. That's what he did it at Louisville. He's doing it now. Yep. And the whole team knows it. The whole team is going to play. They're going to do everything they can because he does everything he can. It's just incredible to watch. Their defense isn't playing well.
It's different, right? Yeah, they're not playing. And again, now, and that's like you said, Jim, over the years, we've always assumed defense, running attack, right? Over this last 3-4 years.
They can throw the ball down the field now. Baltimore's throwing the ball down the field.
Right.
And I love that connection he has with Andrews, too. He and Andrews are that connection with Andrews. Yeah. I love when a quarterback has a trust in a tight end. I agree. Special is a good word. Those two, that could be for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
These are traits
too. It's a position.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say, and it's like the tight end position is so it's coming now. We got a lot of great tight, but it's so underutilized. Like it's your safety blanket. It's your security blanket. And like Jim said, man, I'm so happy that is who he found to be his special connection, because they can bail you out any situations of where they are. They're so versatile. So versus, you know, where a lot of times
that one catch he made was incredible. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah. No, Andrews is special, man. And think about it. It was 2 tight ends drafted that year, and he was the second.
The greatest thing about Lamar Jackson is that Baltimore took Hayden Hurst before him in the first round. That is mind-blowing. Like, when that doesn't get talked about enough. Tyler and I always talk about it, but that doesn't get talked about enough.
Right. People forget, you know, and I know, because I was sitting there in that green room waiting, and I'm like, but yes, they took Hayden Hurst first. Yep.
Why?
And he's a good player, but
right.
Yeah. You know, you're talking about these traits, this never say die, you know, it factor that's inside of Lamar. I mean, that's something that Jim was trying to find, you know, when you're running the Buffalo Bills with Doug, and every GM is trying to find that. And it's, you know, in the media, you sit there and you talk to the quarterbacks and their coaches, and for the most part, everybody's going to say, oh yeah, he's going to bust ass. He's the first guy in the building, last guy to leave. But how do you really find that? How do you identify it? Where did that come from? Why is it real with Lamar?
You know, first off, I think his mother raised a great young man. You know what I mean? But if we're just talking football, and I don't think it's a formula. Like, it's not formulaic. Everybody's different. But man, if you look like Lamar, he did not go to the powerhouse high school. He went to Boynton Beach, and we used to talk about, his mother used to talk about it on the Max Preps ranking. I think when he first went there, they were like negative 2,000 something when it came to the ranking of high schools. It's not a good high school program. The coach was good, but the program wasn't good. And he went there, you know what I mean? And he got them to respectable. They made it to a couple round of playoffs, had some great games. They were like 10-2 for 2 years in a row. But he took a program that didn't really have a great reputation, and he elevated it. He went to Louisville, and he had opportunities to go to some different schools, Mississippi State with Dan Mullen, University of Florida, University of Miami. He went to Louisville. Again, Louisville is not a football powerhouse. He becomes the first Heisman Trophy winner there. And no, they didn't win a national championship or do that, but he elevated the profile of that. So I think, honestly, a lot of times in this quarterback thing, we're looking for the guy. We look at things, the tangible things, or like we're picking a guy who won state championships, who threw for all these yards. But why was he able to do that? Was he taught all the right things to do? Did he have the best environment to do it? Because what happens is when, as Jim knows, when you get to the NFL, these are the best of the best, and this is the chaos. This is chaotic. Have you cultivated, are you the type of person that knows how to get it done in any situation? And I believe Lamar's that person because he's always been that way. Even in youth football, he wasn't on the best programs. He took a program and they won the youth Super Bowl, but again, they weren't a powerhouse. So he's done that. So I think he knows how to win. And I think we see it all the time.
Only Miami would talk about youth football. Only Miami brings up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We live and die by it. Yes. If you didn't do it in youth football, you ain't nothing. I don't care if you're an NFL
It's
MVP.
true.
If we don't know you from youth football, we don't claim you.
There's something to be said for that.
Well, Jim, you're a gambler. Do you ever go down there to Miami and throw some money around? They gamble on these games down there.
I will go if Joshua leads me there. If you take me, I'll go with you and walk me through the games and give me a little scouting report. But I would gamble on it for sure.
We have spreads for youth games, high school games. Yeah, there's the spread.
I'd get on that. That'd be fun.
Who sets the spread? Like, who's setting the spread for a youth game?
The bookies, they set the spread. There's spreads. They give points, everything. Like it's going. And when we're saying youth games, I'm talking about 7, 6, 8 years old. There's spreads.
Uncle Luther Campbell, he said, he probably said.
Luther Campbell is my son's high school head coach.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, I don't think I knew that. Man.
They just October 12th dedicated a youth football field to him. It's Luther Campbell Field. He started a program that my son actually played for, the Liberty City Warriors in the inner city of Miami. He helped start that over 20 years ago.
It's amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, we live and breathe football here.
Yeah.
It is different. I mean, I imagine one of these bookies, they could just get one of these 7-year-olds and say, all right, hey, if you just kind of take a dive here, there's a trip to Chuck E. Cheese in it for you, if you're something. But what your work with Lamar. So, we touched on it, I think last year, but during the season, how are you helping him out? Because obviously off season, you're probably out there on the field. It can be more hands-on. But what's life like for you now? Teaching English, raising kids, helping Lamar. How do you fit it all in?
Yeah, I actually have some time today because I had scheduled a young lady to help her with her personal statement for college, write her essay, but she had other plans. That's how I had this opening, or I would be here to about 5:30 helping with that. So that's kind of how my life goes. But when it comes to Lamar in season, I kind of enjoy it because I take a more positive approach during the season. Right. And I guess I look at it psychologically, like he's got all this other stuff going. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, ESPN creating articles about him, all these other platforms, all these articles. So what usually happens is he has a game on Sunday. I watch it and I evaluate it. And so I don't say anything to him. But so Mondays, I always will send him a text and I'll say this, I send him a text. What I try to do is be positive and light about it, right? If I can, So like I said, even for this last game, there's no critique. It's just, oh man, we making things interesting these days, right? So, and I try to do that because, again, I'm sure he's got a whole bunch of people in his ear and his coaches, you know what I mean? Which he needs to listen to first on the Baltimore Ravens staff. But what I do is when there's times that I see kind of some traits or some habits developing, on that Monday, I'll send him something and just kind of give him a reminder. Hey, pay attention to this. I'm starting to see this come up a little bit. Do this. And so, he always responds positively to that. And usually I'll see it in his game. And we'll do it. So that's kind of how it works in the season. Weekly little text chats where I'm usually positive, but if I need to tell him some things I'm seeing that I know we've talked about in the off season or worked together in the off season, I'll remind him. So it's kind of like I wouldn't say a tune up, but just a little check.
Right. I mean, things are going great now. There was a point, but last season, and I forgot about this common denominator that we got on this podcast, but like, Jim, I mean, you worked with Greg Roman in Buffalo day to day, and there was a point, a lot of those receivers in Baltimore didn't seem too happy with the offense. A lot of them aren't there anymore. How did that kind of all shake out? I mean, Roman's still there. Marquise is still there. They bring in Sammy. They draft Bateman. It seems like everybody's kind of singing Kumbaya now. Is the offense schematically at a good place, you think, when it didn't seem like it was at points, taking if you're going to read into a tweet here and there from a receiver?
Yeah. This for me or Jim?
For you. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think, 740 yards in the last 2 weeks tells you it's doing pretty well. But yeah, I think you're seeing, we saw the underlining from receivers and all this, just wanting to be more involved in the offense. Yeah. And I think there's a thing that happens when something is so special. It's human nature to like milk it. You know what I mean? And so it was a heavily run based offense because Lamar is special at it, as we saw in that obscure stat record that nobody knew of, the 43 games and 100 yards a game, right? Like, he's special running the ball. But I think the receivers knew, because they spent so much time with him. They know he can throw the ball. They know that they can also get traditional receiver stats. I think what people are seeing this season, they knew that. And so I think, God works in mysterious ways. I know there was an emphasis to pass more, but then all the running backs got injured. You know what I mean? So it's almost kind of forced upon them. And we just been blessed that it's been working. You know what I mean? Which, again, is showing off to, like you say, your friends and others who say he's not a quarterback. Like, oh yeah, why does he keep breaking all these quarterback records?
Right.
I was listening to the broadcast. They kept talking about accuracy early on, right? It's like, yeah, he ended up with an 86% completion percentage. Can we stop?
Exactly. I mean, it's easy to kind of point the finger at him because he's so good at running. When I kind of liked it, Steve Smith was the one right on NFL Network. He didn't hold back after that game talking about the offense and the routes. Like, yeah. But now that they have to pass, they have to do it. They're pulling the trigger. I mean, Jim, you worked with Roman. What's your take on how everything's kind of fitting together now?
I think it says a lot that Sammy Watkins went there, because Sammy was in Buffalo with Roman, and we had a tough time getting Sammy the ball. And he's at a point now in his career. Sammy's just smart. He's growing up a little bit. He's like, oh, I'm going to play with Mahomes. Okay, you guys don't want me. I'll go play with Lamar. That makes sense. And their yards per attempt, they're throwing the ball down the field. I mean, Sammy just can't stay healthy. But like, think about that Detroit game. If Marquise catches the ball, we're not even that's not some. His stats are even crazier. Lamar's stats are even crazier. So, and Andrews gets his stats. So this offense, this is what Greg Roman does. I mean, he really can. Yeah. When it's operating, when the quarterback understands everything that Roman's asking, which Lamar definitely does, this is what happens. It's spreading the wealth. Everybody's getting theirs. Bateman's coming back. That'll be interesting to see how they mix him in. But and for them to do this with the running backs getting hurt says so much. So Lamar's just, I mean, we keep saying it. I mean, it's sky the limit. The only thing he has to deal with is the AFC. The AFC,
yeah, right.
Quarterback loaded. It's just quarterback loaded.
This is a special time in the AFC. I mean,
No
it really
doubt.
is. With young
No doubt.
quarterbacks, like every week, it's like, really another one? Yeah.
Herbert, Burrow just come on the scene. You already have Josh Allen and Lamar and Mahomes. It's like it's unbelievable.
Man.
Yep. But I also love what Jim said too about Lamar knowing Greg Roman's offense, and I think fans don't understand that at time. Like
it takes time.
It takes time. Like I don't think they real. And I even tell my student athletes, my guys I train, I'm like, you gotta understand when you get to, if you don't like to do schoolwork now, how you think you're gonna do it when you get to the NFL and you see that playbook and all the nuances and intricacies of the play? Like you've got to be a decent student if you think you're going to be a good NFL player. It's not all, they're not running out there off instinct, you know.
No.
And so it takes time, and I think that's also what we're seeing. He knows the offense now. He knows the check downs. You know where people are supposed to be, and it's not from a lack of intellect or being a student, you know, or not being a student of the game. It just takes time.
And then the run scheme. I mean, whether it was Richie Incognito, Eric Wood, there's a coach that worked with Roman at one point. He told me the same thing. It is like beyond complex with what they're doing up front, right? I mean, it's next. I mean, you could see it in that Chiefs game. I mean, the Chiefs, their heads were spinning on a swivel. Play to play. They didn't know, you know, who had the ball, where they were going. But that's a whole other dynamic, you know, in addition to the check down stuff you're talking about.
Well, Tyler, and a great point you bring up, again, for the casual fan, they think the run game is just hand the ball off, get the guy in front of you and run. They don't realize the scheme of running, the complication of it, and even the decision-making that it takes to handle that run game. You know, they think that a quarterback's intellect is only in the passing game. That run game, as you said, is intricate, detailed, and complex. There's more to it than just hand the ball off left and right.
That mesh point. I mean, knowing how long that hang on to that, reading that free end, there's an art to that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of athletic they just can't do it. They might have the physical ability, but.
And I'm glad you brought that, because I was just about to say that, because I tell people all this time in interviews, and it's kind of like, they're like, yeah, but they don't understand what I'm saying. I'm like, he's almost a savant when it comes to that zone read, because people will think he just pulled it and he didn't pay attention. No, he reads it that quick. It's the same when you're amazed at how fast Tom Brady reads the defense and throws a ball with anticipation. That's Lamar when it comes to that zone read. He's a savant when it comes to that. He reads that end or that scraping linebacker like that. And that's a gift that people don't realize is quarterback talent, football IQ.
And how does he live in the trenches like that and avoid the kill shots? He doesn't get hit. I mean, he gets hit, but he doesn't really, he's in there with the 300 pounders, you know, a lot of 30, 40 plays of a game. And he avoids it. There's an art to that. There's smarts to that.
Listen, he is, and that's, again, he's a gifted runner. And to be honest, and this is where people bring running backs, but I'm like, go look at your favorite running back, and he's probably not as gifted a runner as Lamar. This is also to what Jim was saying. I'll credit to South Florida youth football. Their games are so big. We're so into it. When you make those little jukes and make people miss the smallest little juke, the crowd be like, ooh. Like, so kids live for that. So you see it, he's always juking, right? Even if it's just going to get him a half yard. That's because he grew up in South Florida, and everybody's like, ooh, ooh. You know, it's just crazy here when you do that little stuff. So that's what our kids do.
Oh my God, I love it.
You're right, though.
There aren't any running backs that make people miss like that. Shady McCoy was special for always avoiding hits, you know, in the inside run game. He never got, you know, he had a special ability, but it's still different. Lamar.
Yeah.
He's gonna make himself a lot of money here too, Lamar.
Oh yeah, Josh, that's incredible that he's handling that. I love that he's doing that.
I thank you, man. Like I say, man, hats off to them, and just from the beginning, you know, going through the process, you know, his mother and him, they looked at it, did a lot of research, and were just like, is this necessary? You know what I mean? And you know, and again, I was a part of it, and I was like, hey, you know, y'all are crazy enough to pull this off. And they have, and I think it's amazing. Like you said, we live in an era where it's just empowerment and they're pulling back the curtain on some things and just showing like this guy did it himself, about to get a mega deal, and this is all with him and his mother.
It's real simple. Look up Josh Allen's contract, go a little above that, settle maybe for a little less than Mahomes because he did win a Super Bowl. There's your contract. Seriously.
Damn.
That's it.
That's it.
He can't go anywhere. That's it. That's what he deserves. That's what he's earned. And Baltimore should do that.
Yep. I mean, and that's why when people talk about it, I'm like, it's not as hard as you think it is. You just said it. It's like, okay, Josh Allen just signed. You know, again, not saying anything controversial, but Lamar has produced more than Josh Allen as far as individually. He's been an MVP. So he's above that. But like you said, the next guy would be Patrick Mahomes, was the MVP and a Super Bowl winner. He hasn't achieved that yet. And now they say, why hold out? Well, he has a chance to win a Super Bowl. If he does that, then maybe you got to give Pat Mahomes money. You know, there's an argument.
He might get it and go for it. Go for it all.
We saw it in the regular season. If we see it in the playoffs, he better be asking for more than Mahomes.
Yes.
Right. So, and it's just as simple as that. Don't have to be harder than that.
And really, I don't know. What does an agent take? Like 15%? What is like the going rate for these guys?
I don't even know what it is.
In the NFL, it's actually lower. I think the max is 3%.
3%.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right. But then they make their money on the other stuff, the other financial stuff. You know what I mean? And so forth. But yeah, the contract itself is 3%.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm doing my first book right now. And I think it's 15% for that, but I wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing. Like I absolutely need somebody to lead the way because I've never done this process. A little different when you're Lamar Jackson, just revolutionizing football, and you got the NFL by the balls. So yeah, he's in a good position.
But most of the contract is fill in the blank.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's mostly written for itself. Yes, there's a few details that are, but come on, man, it ain't that tough.
You know what's man? I go back and forth because I know some really good agents. Mugoleta has become such a high profile agent. He's got a lot of studs, and it seems like they're all making so much money. And there's part of me that's like, man, he must be doing something right. Like there is a competitiveness behind the scenes, but I guess when you're Lamar, when you're in that stratosphere, maybe it doesn't matter.
And I was gonna say that, like, I do know, and in the draft process and other things, there was information we didn't know that if you had an agent, you would have been aware because they're in that circle. And it's just like, me as an attorney, there's information that clients can't get to just because we're trying to keep the good old boy network together. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, if you had an attorney, the judge would answer you back quicker. Not because the judge can't answer you. It's just like, I want you to hire an attorney because that's how we all get paid, right? So I know there's things and info that we didn't get during the process because he didn't have an agent, but that's where it goes to. He happened to be a Heisman Trophy winner, then followed that up as a Heisman Trophy runner-up. Candidate. He was like, I think, second runner-up. And then, also he had a big platform. So there is a lot of stuff that agents do for you. But as you see, if you've got common sense and you've got somebody willing to put in the work, and you can just have a lawyer on your team, you can manage without an agent. But you will miss out on some information and kind of the hubbub that goes on at these meetings. But that's it.
Man, I think we doubled the time that we promised you there. So you're in a library right now at the school. You're teaching. I always forget. Is it 4 or 5 kids that you have, Joshua?
4.
Unbelievably busy. How do you do it? Like we have kids now. Like, how do you balance it all? Let's get some life advice for our listeners.
Yes.
It's 1 foot forward, man. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think at the end of the day, it's just, you love your kids and you're trying to get everything done for them, right? So it's like, I'll do it. You know what I mean? And I'm going to find a way. And then even in my job, like, I love my students. You know what I mean? So whatever they need, I get it done. So like, even like you said yesterday, I was at the school. I got to school at 6, and then I had some students applying, and I love my students. So they're trying to get it done. I was here to 5:30, but then my daughter had a little performance at 6:30, about an hour away. And then traffic was bad. And it's, you know what I mean? And then my sons were coming home from football practice, and I had to get that. And it's just like, I love all of these people, so I get it done. So I can't really tell you how I do it. I just know that everybody I'm doing this for, I love them. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of gets me going through it all. And it just works.
I love it. I love it. Nobody should bitch about, being too busy. You just find a way. If the people matter, you just do it. You just do it.
That's exactly it. Yep. You make a way. Even my wife called me on the way. She was like, they're closing doors at 6:30. I'm like, yes, I know. You know what I mean? For my daughter's performance. And I got there at 6:15. I got there with 15 minutes to spare. But again, it's just that if people matter, somehow, some way, it'll all work out if you're trying to do it for them.
And that is why you are the great Joshua Harris, more than anything to do with Lamar Jackson. So thank you so much for spending a half hour with us here, man. Great to see you, hear you. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, sir. I love it, man. Can't wait.
I appreciate it, man.
Hey, pleasure, Jim. Nice meeting you.
Thanks so much.